All right, guys, welcome back to episode 1 of the Green Zone. We are back after a year's time. I have with me today Billy Goldstein. Billy, if you remember, was on episode 1 last year of the Green Zone. He's back. We're going to go through a few things today, guys. So it's going to be a longer than usual episode. I'll still do the typical things that I go through. We'll run through the NFL Pick'ems. That's where I give you straight up head-to-head winners. We're going to go through my bets. First look, second take, and third glance bets. I'll give you your fantasy stardoms. We'll go through by position: quarterback, running back, wide receiver, tight end, and we'll do even defense on there as well. That's for daily fantasy mostly, but you can take some yearly fantasy advice in there as you wish or as you like. Say something to the audience, Billy.
Hey, how's it going? I didn't realize this was number 1 of season 2.
That's right,
So
and
you
it was
just have me on once a year.
once a year. Billy's allowed in the studio, and then he gets the out, and he's
Kick
never
it off.
allowed back.
Okay.
Yeah. So last year, you and I we did this, and we went through. We picked our division winners for each. And then we also gave our Super Bowl picks, and both of us came pretty close and at least nailed one of the Super Bowl teams in there. I've stated several times on my podcast that I nearly picked both teams with the Saints and the Patriots, but you got really close as well with the Jaguars and the Rams. So we both got one in there, and it ended up being Patriots and Rams. So this year, guys, if you want to bet on the one team from each of our picks going to the Super Bowl, that's probably your best bet. All right, so let's start off with a division that's near and dear to both of us, and that would be the NFC West. I'll go ahead and kick it off. I see this as the Rams division. I know there's such thing as a Super Bowl hangover. I do believe it exists. We'll talk about that later with the Patriots. I just don't see it existing that. Let's call it, if there's a hangover level, I just think that the level of hangover that the Rams will have from this Super Bowl is about a 6 out of 10. It's not really as bad as you would imagine. Most of the times what happens with the Super Bowl is you got a lot of players who want more money. They've made it to the Super Bowl and they've made their mark and they bounce. That really didn't happen with the Rams. They lost a couple of guys. I know Ndamukong Suh is a bigger loss than people might realize, but they also re-upped with Eric Weddle. And it just seems like that whole team said, you know what, guys, let's just reload and take another shot at it. So I like the Rams coming out first in that division. I'll just go through and then you can go through on yours rather than bouncing back and forth on that one. Then I've got the Seahawks. I think the Seahawks are a team that a lot of people are kind of forgetting about. The Seahawks, I've said many times, they don't reload and they don't reset with their team. They kind of just remodel their team and they work with whatever they have that's best. And somehow they always maintain a pretty good franchise over there in Seattle. It's a tough place to play. They've got an advantage there with the way that their building is built there to echo noise. Plus, they've got diehard fans to emphasize that structure. So I like the Seahawks. They still got Russell Wilson. He's going to scramble. He's very hard to tackle. You have to break down. You cannot hit this guy hard. And he's got some more weapons. And Pete Carroll, I think, is a good coach. The Seahawks will once again be a threat, and they'll be nipping at the heels of the Rams. But mostly I see them in second because I think there's 2 tiers to this division. The Rams and the Seahawks being on one, and the Niners and the Cardinals being on the second tier down. I think the Niners do improve this year. It's not hard to improve after the year that they had last year. But this time, Jimmy G will stay healthy. However, it won't be enough, and the Niners will end up around 7-9, maybe 8-8 if it's a good year, 9-7 if it's a fantastic year and everything goes their way. Number 1, they've got a tough schedule. Number 2, they spent a ton of money on positions that they do not need. They went out and they bolstered that defensive line. Reminds me a lot of the Houston Texans defensive line when they had 3 or 4 number 1 draft picks on that line, but they still had a crappy team all around them, and they maybe squeaked into a couple playoff bids here and there, but they just weren't a team because they didn't have enough. That's kind of how I see the Niners. They don't have a true number 1 wide receiver. Everybody's expecting George Kittle to have a great year. Defenses are going to key on Kittle and say, beat me somewhere else. So if you're depending that highly on George Kittle, I think you're going to be SOL. As far as number 1 receivers go, they got a bunch of number 2s and 3s. Depending on guys like Goodwin and unproven characters like Dante Pettis, I just don't think it's enough. Jimmy G doesn't or will not and does not have a lot of time. That'll continue. His offensive line is okay, but they're missing a good center and they're missing a good guard there as well. I think the defensive line will be better, much improved, but where they're really going to hurt and the Niners are really going to suck is that secondary. They did nothing to improve on a secondary that was already near the league bottom. They're completely depending upon their pass rush to help them out. They're hoping that'll bail them out of everything and anything on defense, and I just don't see that happening. They've got a matchup this week with a guy named by the name of Mike Evans. There's nobody on that defense in that secondary that can stop him. I think that's going to be a problem all year. So it is a passing league. The NFL, in my opinion, is a passing league. You do have to outscore your opponent. But like I said, they didn't really make any moves for any blockbuster receiver like they could have in the offseason. I would have loved to have seen them trade for OBJ. They said the price tag was too high. Instead, spent money on guys like Tevin Coleman. They've got about 3 or 4 running backs that look good already. And you and I, Billy, have discussed that at length. Shanahan runs a system where it looks like any running back can look good in that, and I know you'll touch on that, so I'll leave that alone from there. And at the bottom of the barrel in the NFC West, I have the Arizona Cardinals. Not going to waste too much time on the last place team in these divisions, guys. The Arizona Cardinals, in my opinion, they've got a heap of problems. They don't have a defense to speak of. David Johnson is somebody I feel bad for. The guy's a great running back. He can even be involved in the passing game as well as he has soft hands, but teams key on him. It reminds me of the Niners back in the day when they only had Frank Gore. And it's just going to be 8 or 9 in the box, and it's going to be beat him someplace and somewhere else. I don't see the Cardinals doing much there. They'll make some noise. They'll probably beat the Niners twice because they seem to own the San Francisco 49ers. A little embarrassing tidbit, the Niners have lost in Arizona the last 4 years in a row. So they'll get a couple wins here and there, but not enough improvement for the Arizona Cardinals. On to you, William, and your predictions for the NFC West.
I don't have a lot to add because we're in the same order. I was going to really touch on how much closer it's going to be between the Seahawks and the Rams, people think, but it sounds like you're already on the same page there too, so don't need to really touch on that. I do think the Rams are going to take a step back. I think the Patriots showed the blueprint to McVay, and
how to beat
people
him.
are figuring out every defense out there. Just look at the game. We had that awful kind of game on Thursday. They're playing nickel. They're playing dime defense. They are getting ready for that coaching tree from McVay, from Andy Reid, and all those assistants are struggling because the defense is getting ready for it. So McVay still might be one of the best play callers, and the Rams do actually run it more than people think, but then you have to think about Todd Gurley. Is his knee going to be okay? I do think the Henderson draft was a good pickup for them, but I think the Rams are going to struggle. He calls in all the plays to Goff. I guarantee you every defense is going to wait till under 15 seconds to set their defense. They're going to roam, and then 15 seconds, McVay can no longer talk to Goff.
Right.
And then the defense is going to reset. And I still don't think Goff is a good quarterback. So I think he's going to struggle. He has great weapons, but I think the Rams are going to take a step back. But they were so good last year that step back is still going to leave them 10 to 11 wins and probably just edge out the Seahawks. Seahawks, though, I also think they'll be 10 to 11 wins. Seahawks are following what the Patriots were doing, maybe a little less now that they got AB, but it's going to go back to power running because they have 5-6 DBs back there, and the Seahawks did it last year with the extra linemen as a tight end, and they're going to power run. They got 2 good running backs, and that's going to hurt a lot of teams who aren't expecting that. So I think maybe it's going to come down to a tiebreaker or one game, maybe 11-5 to 10-6. And then, just like you, there's a big drop-off there to the Niners. Niners should have been in that top tier. I thought it was a terrible offseason. I feel like, once again, Lynch's goal was to put down a team that could look good on paper. And already, I can already see the beat writers saying, well, if they were healthy, stop picking up players that have, like,
health issues.
If Verrett was healthy, but the Chargers have been saying that for years. And they have 3 running backs, all the same player. None of them can stay healthy.
No.
And
none of them are true number one.
None of them are true number one. They're getting players that, I get it, they're supposed to make Kyle Shanahan look good. But the problem is Kyle Shanahan can make anyone look good. His dad can make anyone look good. Look at the Broncos with Gary. They started the whole thing. It's a system offense. Any running back they have looks good. Mostert last year That's why
Jeff Wilson comes in out of nowhere.
That's why I love Kyle Shanahan
Yep.
signing, because it almost gives you more money because you don't have to pay the running backs. There's an epidemic in the NFL right now, and you saw it with Zeke Elliott, you saw it with Melvin Gordon, where teams finally realized that running back is replaceable.
Yeah.
You get a rookie in the 3rd, 4th, even 5th round. You use them on their rookie contract, and you get another one, and that's why these players aren't getting paid. Now, there are a couple exceptions. I know everyone always likes to use Saquon as an argument. I get it, yes. Saquon is the LaDainian Tomlinson, Barry Sanders exceptional.
But they're few and far between.
But most of them, you just replace them. So why are we spending all this money? McKinnon was, when it happened, I didn't get it. I don't understand what that was.
No.
And then I hear on the backside, players that they did need, players they could have spent money on at safety. So many good safeties out this year, and they didn't want to spend the money on it. That money should have gone to safety. I actually kind of like the young receiver core. I like Debo.
I like Debo.
I'm okay with the receiver core. They could have made a couple moves, yes, but the running back signings were awful. They should have invested all that money on the defense, and they could have competed with the Seahawks direct, I think, very easily. I do still have concern. Like Kittle is going to take a huge step back.
Yeah, you have to.
You can't catch 5-yard seam routes and then run for 60 yards after the catch over and over and over again like he did last year. So he's going to take a big step back. You're not hearing great thing about Pettis, but that's kind of the Kyle Shanahan game. I still do like Pettis. I like Deebo Samuel. I think they're building a decent receiver core. I'm okay with that, but the defense that secondary. It's been going back to the Harbaugh days.
Nightmarish.
It's not been good, but at least in Harbaugh they had such a good pass rush that there's no time to get the ball.
And linebacker core, you couldn't run on that team. You got Patrick Willis and Bowman.
And Patrick Willis and Bowman would run step to step with tight ends. They'd be back there keeping up. So, unfortunately, I think it's going to be another losing year for the Niners. I would say 500 would be optimistic.
Yeah.
Then the Arizona Cardinals.
Our levels are really low, so you and I are going to have to both speak up.
Oh, okay. I'll speak up.
Yeah.
I like talking about the Arizona Cardinals, so I'll talk real loud. Kyler Murray would not have been the first round overall pick. Overall pick for 30 of the 32 teams. I thought that was an awful pick.
Yeah.
I don't get it. He would have been better off going to baseball. He's going to be a huge bust. I know it's mainly fantasy on this show, so when he was going as like the 9th overall quarterback, I couldn't believe it.
Unbelievable.
I could not believe it. Now he's actually dropped back. I think a big part to Hard Knocks. Everyone heard him complain about, man, why are you blitzing me? Like, it's gonna be awful. They have
the NFL.
They have a quarterback that doesn't stand a chance. They have a coach that could not get a head coaching job in the SEC. He was going to be an offensive coordinator, then all of a sudden Arizona called him out of nowhere. This guy, everyone's crowning Patrick Mahomes as the greatest thing since Joe Montana. This guy had a losing record in college with Patrick Mahomes.
Yep.
And they expect him to go and do this air raid, which air raid is just another name for the running gun. It's nothing new. It hasn't worked before. Arizona is going to compete for the first overall pick again.
And Mahomes is a freak. Do you really see a lot of talent in Mahomes that is like coached in him? Like, oh yeah, that guy really got coached up. Like, he's kind of a genetic freak. He's kind of a guy who has a lot of talent just like within him. So But I
do think he was coached. Mahomes was not a rookie last year.
Right.
Everyone thinks he was a rookie. He had a whole year under Andy Reid. Andy Reid picked him what everyone said was too early because he was raw in college. He saw Brett Favre in him, and Andy Reid coached him up. So I do not think Patrick Mahomes would have been Patrick Mahomes if he had to start as a rookie with a different coach.
Okay.
I think that a lot of that credit actually
with Andy Reid, you mean? Oh, absolutely. Yeah. But I was touching on the point of that college coach of his that had a losing record with Mahomes.
Oh, yeah.
You know, he's kind of touted as this guru because he had Mahomes, and now he can coach up Kyler Murray. And I just think there was a lot of raw talent with Mahomes. And then he did get a little coached up by Andy Reid because Andy Reid's a professional who knows how to do that.
Yeah, well, when he came to the NFL, he was, on draft day, he's raw. He's not NFL ready. Well, that's not saying a lot about the Texas whatever
Right.
run and gun offense, whatever he was in. So it's like, yeah, it was an NFL offense. He was not well coached, and I think Andy Reid gets all the credit for Patrick Mahomes. But yeah,
For sure.
that goes against him. So I'm in the same order as you, and apparently my take of the Seahawks giving the Rams a run for their money is not
A hot take? No, it is a hot take because I think a lot of people are forgetting about the Seahawks, and I could see two teams coming into the playoff picture out of this division, and it being those two teams. And I just think the Seahawks will be nipping on the Rams' heels. And if you flip flop those picks, and the Seahawks win the division, and the Rams get second there, I wouldn't be totally surprised. But glad you had your input because I didn't even mention Kyler Murray, and I totally agree with you. I think Kyler Murray is going to be a bust. So we're both on record stating Kyler Murray as a bust. The guy could barely see over the line. We all know how Drew Brees has to stand on his tippy toes. Russell Wilson has to be an athletic maniac to get his passing lanes. His best games are after he scrambles around. I don't see Kyler Murray really. I don't know. It just seems to me he doesn't have what I think he needs to have, and that includes his height and other things. So that moves us on to any other NFC division. There's the East, North, South, and that is it for the NFC. Or we could jump to the AFC. What would you like to do, William?
Stay NFC, and let's go clockwise. We'll go north.
Okay, and you can start us off. I did last one.
All right, NFC North. We got Vikings, Packers, Bears, and Lions. This one's going to be competitive, as always. Who do I think's going to win this? I am going to say... I haven't talked to you about this one either. Let's go. I'm going to go Vikings. I think Vikings are going to win the division. I feel like everything's coming together as far as what the Vikings have been trying to do for a long time, which is run the ball. Dalvin Cook, I think, is going to be a beast this year. It's just a well put together team. I think they had a lot of issues last year with the offensive line, which they put back together, and I really think people underestimated the whole Tony Sparano loss right before the year, him dying, what that did with the offensive line, everything. So yeah, I think the Vikings are going to have a solid year. They're one of the best roster teams, offense and defense.
Yes.
So I'm going to go Vikings number 1. Number 2, before yesterday, I might have gone Bears, but Packers didn't look at it. I'm gonna stick with the Bears. I think the Bears are gonna take a big step back. I think the Bears defense is overrated.
Yeah.
I think it's gonna really drop. Maybe be top 10. Definitely not top 5. I think Vic Fangio is one of the best defensive coordinators. I thought he should have got the head coaching job in the Niners. Now he's in Denver.
Oh, I would have loved that.
The Bears are gonna suffer on defense, but I still think they can get the number 2 seed. I'll go Packers in the 3 seed. Packers really looked awful yesterday.
Yeah,
Aaron Rodgers looks awful. He is losing it. He keeps talking bad about his coach. He's an egomaniac. Aaron Jones is not getting the ball, even though he averages 5 yards a carry. I still don't get it. Devontae Adams, there's a funny highlight of him. The ball went out of bounds. He just turned around and started counting the defenders around him. He's like 1, 2, 3, 4. Like they're just keying in on him. Geronimo Allison hasn't shown anything yet. I like Marquez Valdez-Scantling, but he's not really showing much. So, Packers will still be decent. Lions, I like where the Lions are going, but they're not there yet. They are going to run the ball. I would not be surprised if the Lions pass the Packers or even the Bears, because I'm really high on teams that are going to go they're going to punch teams in the mouth and they're going to run the ball.
Yeah.
I think I'm really high on Kerryon Johnson this year. I think the Lions are going to have one of the better run games. They've been building that offensive line. And more importantly, that Lions defense is no joke this year. They really built up the defense. I think they have a top 5, if not top 2 defensive line in the league. They're going to be hard to run on. They got 2 good corners now. They still have some issues at linebacker and safety, but yeah, I think it's going to be, this is one of the tougher ones to call, honestly. I would not be surprised if this division completely flip-flopped. Wasn't this the division where it was like a different winner every year for so many, or maybe that was the East, where a different person won each year. But yeah, this one's going to be tight. It's going to be, I'm going to put Vikings #1, Bears 2, Packers 3, Lions 4. But not a division I'm going to be putting my money on as far as picking these teams. Because I could see them going a lot of different ways.
Yeah, we're pretty close. We only have one switch in there. I was talking with you earlier and said it before. I'm high on the Vikings this year. I think they've got a well-balanced team. They have a solid defense. They have a solid offense. I love their idea of just making it a run-first, attack-type team. I think if Dalvin Cook could stay, Dalvin, if he could stay healthy this year, I think that's a big leap forward. And I think, having last year with Cousins just new to the offense, new to the system, like you said, with the passing of Tony Sperano before the season, all of that just kind of combined to this. They're not ready yet. They need a little bit more work before they can gel as a team. I think you see the fruits of that labor this year. I think this is the year that they gel. This is the year that they kind of they're used to that playbook. And although I'm not a huge Kirk Cousins fan, I do think he's got enough around him to make a good run, especially in that division. The reason I think, and I make that statement, is because I think both the Bears and the Packers are going to kind of take a step back, and in particular the Bears. I got the Bears coming in third. I got the Packers ahead of them. That game may have kind of influenced my decision a little bit, but I don't see either of these teams being that great this year. The Packers I put in front simply because I put more stock and faith in Rodgers than I do in Trubisky. I see the Packers improving offensively. Both of us stated last year that the coach last year of the Packers, was it McCarthy or what was that? Yeah, McCarthy, that he would be fired and that he was one of the worst coaches in the NFL. That came to fruition. That happened. And but then from what I saw from this first game, it almost looks like they're running a gimmicky high school sort of offense. A lot of, snap the ball and throw it to Devontae Adams or, fake the sweep. I don't know. It looked it didn't look very creative, and it didn't look like anybody on that offense had a real confident hold of it. So I didn't see that much promising from that.
So, yes.
Go ahead.
And you're taking the side most people are where, Bears lost, so it's worse for the Bears.
Right.
But neither team, first of all, neither team played their quarterback at all in the preseason.
Mm-hmm.
But for me, that's more alarming for the Packers to come out that bad because Rodgers shouldn't have to play in the preseason.
Yeah.
He's still played bad. He's a vet.
Yeah.
Trubisky was dumb to never play him in the preseason.
Right.
So I think you would expect Trubisky to come out flat, and there's a terribly called game, by the way.
Yeah.
I do still think David Montgomery is going to be a beast once he actually gets the ball. But I'm more concerned with the Packers because they're a veteran team.
Right.
The Bears are a young team. They did not play
growing pains
at all.
For sure.
And they came out rusty. But why are the Packers rusty when they have this veteran lineup that never plays the preseason? That's what my biggest concern is. And
you don't see any help
offense.
coming.
The offense just looks.
It looked a little anemic there. I like Aaron Jones. Like I was telling you, I don't know much about Aaron Jones, but from the few runs he had, he looked explosive, he looked quick, and he looked fast, but they've got to get him the ball. They got to find a way to get the ball in his hands. There were some holes and openings for Jamal Williams, but he's sort of a straight ahead, going to run straight until somebody hits him tight back. You kind of need that explosive elusiveness in your back, a little bit at least. So I kind of hope, and especially since I have him on one of my teams, am hoping that they utilize Jones a little bit more. I got the Packers barely squeaking and edging out the Bears. I got the Bears right behind them. I see the Bears taking a step back. I don't think that they're playoff bound this year, especially in third in that division. That's obviously not happening. But yeah, I just don't see it. I think Trubisky got a bad rap coming out. Everyone knows he's a bust. He's a bust. There's something there, but I just don't see championship caliber. I know Nagy in that offensive scheme, they can kind of be creative with things and utilize his legs, his athleticism, but there's just not enough. I mean, I just don't know if there's enough arm talent. I like Allen Robinson. Don't like him in fantasy just because you can't count on the Bears airing it out as much. And I don't know whether that's because they just don't trust Trubisky or They just feel like they have better options elsewhere. I'm not really sure there. So I see the Bears take a step back. I agree with you. I think their defense is a little overrated. I'm not saying they're terrible, but I just don't think that, I saw a comparison to the Monsters of the Midway yet during that Packer-Bear game. It's not there. It's not there at all. So pump the brakes on that. And then the Lions. And honestly, even though I have the Lions coming in last, I do like the steps the Lions are taking. I would not be shocked if the Lions actually made a push. Like you were saying, I don't know if I'd bet on this division. It looks kind of like a toss-up. I really like Kenny Golladay is going to be the focus. I think he's going to be their new kind of, Megatron, if you will, on a lesser extent. I think that he'll get a lot of targets, and I think that's only bodes well for the Lions. I really like Kenny Golladay. I also like Kerryon Johnson, so there's improvements there. There's Stafford's still going to be his up and down self. That's who he is. That's who he's always been. But I think they're making the right steps in the right direction. It's just a year or two too early, so they need a little bit more time. But so the Lions getting last there, but not too far back. So.
Yeah, I mean, they'll run the ball.
Yeah.
I don't get it. You play against the Bears and the Packers. You run against both those teams. Mm-hmm. You had David Montgomery and Aaron Jones to not get the ball. How do you beat Khalil Mack, who was last place in rush defense year after year? Is the Raiders. You run at Khalil Mack. The Packers play like a base dime defense. Mm-hmm. All they've been doing the last 6 years is drafting defensive backs. So, and it was just the worst play call. Both teams were just throwing it right into these defenses that wanted you to throw. The Lions aren't going to do that. Matt Patricia wants to run the ball.
There we go.
And if you run it at the Bears, you run it at the Packers, you're going to succeed.
Yeah.
And he's not going to stop. He comes from Bill Belichick. You always think of, the Gray against, they gave that Gray guy the ball against the Colts.
Sonny Gray? No, wait.
Might be, no, they think it, they cut him like the next week. I can't think of
Oh, I know. Okay.
But they gave him, they just run at the Colts because the Colts are like, well, they got to pass eventually. He's like, no, I'm just going to 6 touchdowns.
Yeah.
Let's just go. And I think the Lions will do that, and that's how you beat those two teams.
Yeah. No, totally agree. I think it was, what was it, Trubisky had like 45 pass attempts or something, or I don't know, somebody, either Rodgers or Trubisky had about 45 passing attempts in that game, so just out of control there. And I actually think that the league may push back a little bit on the whole airing it out passing league thing. I don't think they want that attached to them. So I do think teams with good defenses and a good running game, like you said, the punch you in the mouth type teams win in the trenches. I think there will be a spot in the postseason for those type of teams. So we'll have to wait and see on that. Let's continue with the NFC. We'll finish out the NFC and we'll come back to the AFC. I'm going to go and take the NFC South, one of the more juicier divisions in the NFC, I think. I'll start it off. I've got the Saints. And I love the Saints. I loved them last year. You guys heard me several times on the podcast say that I felt they got hosed in that game against the Rams. Whatever. They had chances afterwards. They didn't get it done. We're moving on. Some changes were made in the rules. I think, honestly, each team should just get 3 challenges. They could challenge whatever they want, and then you're done. But whatever. Nobody else likes that, so I already see Billy shaking his head. We'll just we'll figure something out there. So I like the Saints getting first place. Love Drew Brees, love Alvin Kamara, love Michael Thomas. Something we talk about a lot, and you mentioned to me many years ago, young ascending talent is what you want to focus on in fantasy. I think it also bodes well for your team as far as wins and losses go. So the Saints have a couple of guys like that, and Kamara and Thomas. Yes, Drew Brees is another year older, but I still love the guy. That's a Hall of Fame quarterback who I think could take advantage of this division. Next, I've got the Falcons. I think the Falcons continue to gel, much like the Vikings. They needed some time, not like the Vikings. The teams are completely different. But like I said, they had a lot of new pieces and new parts to that whole engine, right? They needed some time to gel. I think that's the same for the Falcons. I think this year is the year they see a little bit. You saw it kind of towards the end of the year for the Falcons. I think Ryan's starting to get control of that offensive scheme. And I like the Falcons this year. I also like the Panthers. I think Cam Newton has a good year ahead of him. He's got some weapons in Samuel and Moore and McCaffrey. And you never really want to count out the Panthers. They're one of those more balanced teams to just kind of hang around. But I still have the Saints and the Falcons a cut above them. And then last but not least, I've got Jameis Winston and his Buccaneers. I like their offensive talent. I didn't see enough improvement on the defensive side. And Jameis is a little bit too inconsistent for me. We're not talking about fantasy here. I'll get to that later. But as far as wins and losses, that translates. I just don't see it. I like Mike Evans. I like O.J. Howard. I like, Chris Godwin. They've got weapons and they've got talent there, but I just think it's a little too soon. They need to bolster up and improve that defense a little bit better for my liking before I put them anywhere towards the top of that division. So, reiterate, I got the Saints, then Falcons, Panthers, Bucks. What say you, Bill?
I go Saints 1. I don't need to touch on that too much. I mean, it's the Saints. Everyone knows they're good. They could have won the Super Bowl the last 2 years.
Yeah.
If it wasn't for Stephon Diggs and pass interference calls. Saints are 1. I am going to differ with you 2. I'm going Panthers.
Okay.
Number 2. I'm really high on the Panthers this year. I really like their team.
Flip.
Yeah, I'm going to flip the Panthers.
That's an impractical joker's call.
I mean, it comes down to Cam Newton's shoulder. He couldn't throw the ball last year. If he gets hurt, obviously, all this all goes out. But I'm going Panthers 2. Falcons 3. They will be competitive. They'll be in that wild card hunt. They're just still too inconsistent. I know that their head coach is taking over defensive play calling now, but they still have a lot of holes on the defense. It's a very top-heavy roster as well.
Yeah.
They always seem to be one of those teams that have injury problems and they don't have a good next man up mentality there. So I'm going to go Panthers, then Falcons. Finish off with the Bucks. Bucks are going to be a fantastic team for fantasy, but it's just not going to equal wins.
Right.
The defense, they have no pass rush, no secondary. It's going to be a great offense, bad defense, fun games to watch, but they're just not going to be able. It's going to come down to shootouts, and Jameis Winston will probably make a bad call.
Shootouts and turnovers, right? Like who will win the turnover?
At the end of the game, they'll be driving down, and James Winston will do something dumb. But it'll be great for fantasy, but it'll still. That's a tough division.
That is a tough division for
Bucks
sure.
will still be number 4.
Okay, cool. Yeah, no, that's pretty much how I see it too. And, as far as injuries go with Cam Newton, and this whole thing, the caveat is always, boding any injuries to any of the most important players, or really all players are important when you're talking about 12 guys on each side, or 11 guys on each side. You've already got a lingering foot issue with Cam Newton, right?
Well, that's why I brought it. I'm not going to, obviously, for every team.
Right.
If Drew Brees gets injured, then I could say
all bets off.
But I don't bring that up for Drew Brees because that's not something that comes up.
Right.
With Cam Newton, the injuries have to be a concern going into it because he has the shoulder, he has the foot, he runs the ball a lot, and he still hasn't shown that he can be successful without running the ball a lot. So injuries it has to be played in, I think, with the Panthers a little bit more than other teams.
Okay. All right. That moves on. There are 2 divisions left in the NFC. That'd be the East and the...
Just the East.
No, you're right. Yeah, just the East. We already did all others, so you don't get to choose, Billy. You just have to fire away on the NFC East.
Number 1. The team I have winning the East is also the same team. Are we going to do Super Bowl picks later? Should I save this?
Yeah, no, we'll do it.
I'm just going to do, I already gave it away, but the team that I have winning the NFC East is the Dallas Cowboys. I think it is the most complete team. I was a little worried about, I am still worried actually about Cooper's injury. Plantar fasciitis does not sound like a small thing. So, obviously another injury issue there, but I think Cooper's going to be all right. They got Zeke, which they needed to do. I always knew that was going to happen.
Yeah.
Jerry Jones take care of his players, and Zeke is one of those generational players. So, Cowboys got their defense. I love their defense this year. They have a good, solid offense. Kind of reminds you just old school football. They got the elite receiver, running back. Dak isn't elite at quarterback. Just a well put together team. I got Cowboys being number 1. Number 2 is going to be the Eagles. I don't like the Eagles this year. I think they're very overrated. But compared to the next 2 teams in this division, I mean, the Eagles got to be number 2. Carson Wentz did not win a Super Bowl. People still forget that. He was not playing when they won that Super Bowl. He has a ton of injury problems. Their offensive line's getting old. Yes, they have a lot of depth, but I'm just not feeling the Eagles this year. I don't like how they're constructed as well as the Cowboys are, but they'll still be, I don't think they'll make the playoffs, but they'll be in that wild card hunt when it's all said and done. Finish off 2 in that division. I think this division only put 1 in the playoffs when it's all said and done.
Yeah.
The Giants will be number 3. I'm not as down on the Giants as some people are with this offseason because the moves they made were in the trenches. And yes, they got rid of Odell, but they had to get rid of Odell. And they picked up some big names, though, at offensive line, and they needed to. And they still got Saquon. Their offense is just going to be so condensed. They have basically 3 slot receivers and a really good running back. When your running back's the most explosive person on your team, it's not a great idea. I think Eli will not make it through the first half of the year. I think Daniel Jones will take over at some point. Verdict's still off on him. Their defense has holes in it as well, so nothing. I'm not high on the Giants. I just don't think they're going to be the worst team in the league like some people do, mainly because the other team in that division is the Redskins, who could very well be the worst team in the league. I don't know what the Redskins are doing. They're going to be a dumpster fire. I heard the other day that AP might not even be activated first week. Why is he on the roster? But yeah, I don't like anything about the Redskins offense or their defense will be okay. I take that back. They basically just put together Alabama's defensive line from a couple of years ago. They had 2 good corners. I do like Redskins defense. I think they could be a top 10 defense, but the offense is so bad. I don't know what they're doing. I was never a big Dwayne Haskins guy. And who's he throwing it to?
I don't know. Yeah,
By the way, did you hear your boy's out?
Yeah, his 9th concussion. By the way, my boy is Jordan Reed, University of Florida fan here, so I've been holding out for him in fantasy for about 8 years. So, not this year though. No more Jordan Reed. Let there be light. Had to add a little light here. Sorry, as it got a little dark around California time here, guys. Not that long ago. So, this may be the first division where we differ a little bit. We've had a couple where we just had 1 or 2 teams off, so I guess it's kind of just like that. But yeah, I have the Eagles number 1, and mainly because I just like Doug Peterson. I think he's a great coach. In the past, if you go off of the old adage of a good coach, a good quarterback, will win you some a good amount of games. That's proven to, not lead me astray too much. So I like that, and continuing with that thought, I also like balanced team this year. I think the key to this year, for me at least, is balance. Teams that are balanced. I think there's a lot of balance there on that Eagles team. However, they don't really have a running back that kind of oohs and ahs you. I understand in the NFL right now you can win with a running back committee. The Patriots prove that year after year. So if Peterson is the coach that I think he is, I think that's what allows them to edge out the Cowboys this year. However, I also like the Cowboys. It's hard for me to say that as a Niner fan. The 90s still engraved in my mind, but I like the Cowboys. They look good. I am with Billy when I say that I felt like Jerry Jones was not going to allow Zeke Elliott to not be playing week 1. So he slipped to me in a fantasy draft at 5. I absolutely gobbled him up, took him right away. That's a player that can win you a fantasy league. He's a beast. I love Zeke Elliott. I love the teams that still have that beast running back, that guy that can actually make a difference week in, week out. Like we said earlier, you don't have to have it if you have a RBC, running back committee, but if you do have it, it's a huge advantage. I love the Cowboys' defense. They got a lot of young studs on that defense. They're only going to get better. Dak Prescott, having Zeke, and if Amari Cooper is healthy, that's a team that you're going to have to compete against. So Dakota Rain, look out for him. But I think the Eagles just edge out the Cowboys there. If they do flip, I wouldn't be totally shocked. I have the Giants coming in 3rd. It's much of what you said. They're so they're like you were saying with the Falcons, I think just a little bit top heavy. So they have some talent there. Evan Ingram, Saquon Barkley. I even like Sterling Shepard. I think they did have to move on from OBJ. I mean, it just felt inevitable. So they did what they had to. They got the most out of it that they could. But they just don't have enough, and I think it's towards the back end of Eli, his career. I think we've all known that for a little bit now, and I just don't see them ahead of the Eagles or the Cowboys. And then finally, the Redskins, they lost Alex Smith, who I felt like was a serviceable quarterback, not championship caliber, but the next step down is nothing exciting. So I don't really see them doing anything. I do like their defense. I think they have a slightly underrated defense. They got one of those defenses that nobody really knows any of the players, and so therefore nobody really thinks about them, but they're a solid defense altogether. But that still gets you in last in that division.
Can I play devil's advocate?
Yes.
Beat you up a little bit?
Yes.
So you said you like the Eagles because of Doug Peterson.
Yes.
Now, what has Doug Peterson shown that he is the guy and not Frank Wright who went to the Colts? Does this not seem a little redskinny with you, with the offensive coordinator McVay leaves and
right.
the head coach never is able to produce it?
That very well could happen.
Because he was not. 2 years ago, he was ahead of the curve. He was
right.
drawing up game plans.
Right.
They never knew what was happening. Last year, there was nothing special about that Eagles offense.
Right. Yes. No, and that very well could be the case, and I love Frank Reich. I guess I'm putting a lot more stake into that first season of Peterson. I like his creativity. I like how most of the times when you're going against him, it's hard to predict what the hell he's going to do. So that's what I like about him. I think the teams that have offensive coordinators that are the least predictable tend to get things done. I understand there was a little bit too much hype put on the whole, Nick Foles on the rollout or whatever, the pass in the Super Bowl and all that. I get
Philly
it.
special.
The Philly special, right. It's like, there was one play, but that whole game was coached very well. But yeah, it may not have been Peterson fully responsible for all of that. So, we'll see on that. I think the verdict's still, for me, the jury's still out on Carson Wentz. I haven't made my decision on him.
Yeah.
When he first came out, I really thought, wow, that guy can play. And, the teams that passed on him or said that he would be a bust because, he was picked for all the wrong reasons, hand size and size and all that were wrong. This guy can play. Then there was a little bit of a step back. But I think he was kind of still dealing with the injury and molding with his team. So I just think he can get back on track, and I think that team could bounce back and get back on track altogether. If not, it wouldn't shock me. It wouldn't shock me. And the Cowboys, I definitely like Peterson more than Garrett. But, we're not even looking at, or I'm not even looking at or even considering the coordinators in that one. And, that can make all the difference for sure.
Well, as much as we like the same teams, I think we have very different likes as far as what we want in the coordinators. Because I think the pendulum's going to swing. And I think it started to swing at the last Super Bowl. And I think some offensive coordinators are getting too cute.
Yeah.
I think the Rams,
cutesy.
I think the Saints were number one. And I know you were a big component on the pass interference call that should have been called. Mm-hmm. I say if they would have thrown that ball to Kamara or Michael Thomas, the flag gets thrown.
Yeah.
Right? If you throw it to, they had all those no-name receivers that paid one to seem like a genius and get him involved because no one was expecting it.
Right.
Because they're not going to get the same calls that the studs are going to get. You saw it with the Bears as well. Like, I really have concerns with their offensive play calling because it's like they try to be too cute.
Yeah.
And I like the teams this year that are not
play to their
gonna try to be
strengths.
cute. The one that I'm okay with is the Rams because their offensive play, because their GM is so good and they have so many good players. Mm-hmm. But I like the Seahawks. I like the Cowboys. I like even though I had them last in the division, I think compared to that, the Lions, the Vikings. Mm-hmm. I liked the Panthers.
Okay.
I like teams that are going to say, I'm running left, stop me.
Try to stop.
And they won't be able to. I think that's just where the pendulum's swinging to.
Yeah.
And I don't think the Eagles are going to do that. They still want to mix in all these different running backs. I don't know why they brought back Sproles. I'm blanking on the name now. The rookie, though, is by far their best running back, but they're going to use him. I didn't draft him in any leagues. So it's just, I think that Doug Peterson has got a little bit exposed. I think his game plans were cute, but not good last year. And I think the Colts had very good game plans on the opposite side of that. I'm just wondering
You mean the Cowboys?
No, the Colts with Frank Reich. I'm thinking a lot of that.
Okay.
I think a lot of that Philly special was not Doug Peterson.
Okay.
I think Doug Peterson might have been the one making dumb substitutions, but Frank Reich was the one with these genius game plans coming into it, where like anything you thought the Eagles were going to do, they went the other way. But there's a difference between being contrarian and being dumb, and it's the same thing I always talk about with daily fantasy when people try to, I'm being contrarian. No, that's just being dumb, or that's just being too cute.
Right.
I'm really into the teams this year. They're gonna punch you in the mouth. Cowboys, Seahawks. I'm running right. You can't stop me because my line's better than yours. And you have been drafting defensive backs for the last 6 years.
Right.
Or pass rushing defensive linemen.
Right. Well, so basically, I think a lot about what you're saying is, play to your strengths. And I think good coaches, in my opinion, are the coaches that can see what they have and what they don't have, and then play to those strengths. And then,
check.
Yeah, 100%. And then kind of minimize the mistakes as to the places where they know that they don't have the talent. So I kind of include that when I say a good coach. Yes, offensively, you can absolutely get too cute. I agree with you that Matt Nagy did that in this week's game, in Thursday's game. Going for it on 4th and 10 and like a 6-point game. I don't know. There were a lot of things that he did that I was just kind of mouth on the floor, didn't understand it. So, yeah, and that very well could be the case. That's why I kind of like the balanced teams over the explosive offensive teams. I do think that there are a place for the offensive gurus, like you said, the McVays. I think Shanahan will do some things with the Niners. But I think all around, in my opinion, a good coach isn't somebody who can just come up with these offensive creativities, but also understand his strengths and weaknesses and play to his strengths. If Doug Peterson kind of gets too cute and gets all, like I was saying, you never know where it's coming from, instead of playing to his strengths, and it's too much of that, then yeah, that very well could be an issue for sure. And that'll...
To the AFC.
To the AFC. Probably the more interesting conference. All right, so the last one you kind of were stuck with.
This one's more interesting.
I don't know. I think it's kind of up in the air.
I think this one's way easier to pick.
Yeah, I think
it was tough as we were going through. I was like, because I haven't thought about wild cards yet.
Yeah, no, me
neither.
neither.
The Seahawks might make the wild card team. I'm like, yeah, I can see that. But then we got to the South, and I was like, ooh.
Yeah, I know. I also,
they could put 3 in. They were talking about the North. I'm like, oh, they could put the East. I mean, the East. If you said the Eagles.
I like the NFC. The parity there. It's probably not as top heavy as the AFC.
The AFC, yeah.
But
now with the Colts.
100%. But I just. That screwed up a lot, yeah. But there's some interesting teams in the AFC, some exciting teams, some teams that I really want to get a second look at. So I'm just excited for all of it, to be honest. But it could be that the AFC becomes a little bit more predictable. I mean, you could already count the Patriots into the playoffs. But that's every year. So, and it is a huge advantage to know that you're going to be in the playoffs every year because your division is so weak. But I want to see Sam Darnold in his second year. I want to see what Josh Allen can do in his second year. I know he's not on the same tier as Darnold, but I want to see that. The Dolphins, whatever. But I want to see the Steelers without Antonio Brown. I want to see the Chiefs again. I want to see the Jaguars with Nick Foles. I want to see if that can make a difference. I want to see I don't want to see the Titans. I want to see what the Texans can do. They just seem to be on that bubble every year, and they can't get through. But maybe they can this year. The Colts, I think it really hurts to lose an MVP runner-up last year. But what can Jacoby Brissett do? So that's the type of thing that I'm really excited. The Browns are a team I can't wait to see. So
get Sunday ticket just for the Browns. Big Browns fan.
So I'm going to start it off with I'm not picking the AFC East, so I'll go. Let's start it off with the AFC West. And did I do the last one first, or did you? I think you did. So I'll do this one first. Okay, I have the Chiefs coming out of the AFC West. Big surprise, right? I thought that the Chiefs were going to take a step back after I thought that they were going to lose Tyreek Hill. They had already lost Kareem Hunt, and I just didn't see them getting to the same tier that they got this year, right? But then I watched them play in a preseason game, just the first quarter against the San Francisco 49ers, and Tyreek Hill is not suspended. He didn't suffer any sort of consequences for what had happened. We're not going to touch on that because this is a football podcast. We're not into anything there. He looked the same amount of explosiveness as always. I mean, he looked even maybe possibly a step faster than he usually does. Like everybody else is in slow motion when that guy's running around on the field. So you pair that with a guy who has a cannon arm, can throw from any angle, can scramble, keep plays alive. It's a hard combination to stop. Then you have Travis Kelce, Hall of Fame tight end. And then they appear to kind of have a running system similar, not the same system at all to Shanahan's, but where they have a system where the running back is just there, right? Williams steps in and all of a sudden he's good. You can see my dog's snout underneath that door right there.
I think it is. I think it's very similar to Shanahan.
Which is just, it's just like, wow, who's this guy?
Reed, running back.
Yeah.
I put in the same sentence as Kyle Shanahan.
Kyle Shanahan's. And Kyle took that over from Mike. And Mike Shanahan and Andy Reid were once part of the Niners organization where they kind of learned from each. So, yeah, I see. So that's going to be hard to stop. And they have some talent at that position, too. So I really like the Chiefs a lot. Then I got the Chargers. I have a lot of family in Southern California who were upset at my analysis of that Charger playoff loss. They thought I went a little bit too hard on Phillip Rivers. Look, I have always said that Phillip Rivers is an underrated quarterback, and that's saying a lot because the guy's a Hall of Fame quarterback. The fact of the matter is the guy never has time, ever, at all. He's always throwing off of his back foot, and he's done it for so long that sometimes when he does have time, he's still going off that back foot because the guy just throughout his entire career, he has less than 3 seconds. Watch. If you don't believe me, time it yourself. The guy very rarely has time, and that happened in that playoff game that they lost as well. He had no time at all. I'm just saying I expected a little bit more, a little frustration on my part because I accidentally bet on them to go to the Super Bowl, and they felt so close to me. And they couldn't go. But rest assured, Charger fans, I still love Phillip Rivers. I still think you've got a good team there. They've got several weapons. I like a big step up from Mike Williams this year. There are other guys there. I don't really know what's going on with Melvin Gordon. If he can't play, I do think that's a bigger loss than some people think or are saying. I've had him in fantasy the last 3 or 4 years in a keeper league. The guy's a stud there, and I do think that his play does translate to some wins for the Chargers. So hoping things can get resolved there. I don't know the latest on that. Is he back or
still not
showing up? So we'll see how that goes.
Traded to the Niners.
That would be fantastic.
No, it wouldn't.
Well, yeah, right. Another running back.
Didn't start it on Melvin Gordon.
But I still got the Chargers there. I love their defensive ends. They're going to be constantly putting pressure on teams. I love their safety, who I wish the Niners would have drafted, not last year, but the year before. So they're making moves in the right direction, and I think that there's going to be kind of this edge to the Chargers of kind of, I know this isn't like, the farewell tour for Phillip Rivers, and he hasn't even talked about that, but I do think that team and that franchise senses that it's kind of near the end for Rivers, and I think there will be some sort of, exuberance that fuels that team to kind of go get one for the Gipper. As far as that goes. And then I've got the Broncos in third and the Raiders in last there. And I made my list before the Raiders lost Antonio Brown. So the Broncos, I like their defense as always. They're going to have a defensive line that's very formidable. They don't have a quarterback, and they've got a lot of issues offensively. I do like Phillip Lindsay, but they've got several other issues. So I've got these two teams on a different tier. And the Raiders, just, I don't know, I'm going to make a kind of a crazy analogy here, but if you've ever dated somebody that kind of tells you like, oh, you have your own smell to you, you have your own scent, you don't even need cologne, Billy. You've got the cutest little scent to you, right? Like your own smell. That's how the Raiders are to me. They kind of have their own stench, right? And every year in the offseason, really? I don't know. But
you have a stench?
A smell, a scent. No, the Raiders have a stench. We have scent. Yeah, it's just, to me, the Raiders have a stench to them, and you start to smell it in the last preseason game. Sometimes you can get a whiff of the stench of the Raiders in the offseason. Just kind of that stench of kind of like loserness, right? That whole like, oh, God, here come the Raiders again, right? They're going to F it up, right? They're going to do something that messes everything up. And I just, that stench hasn't left since Gruden came in. And I think they kind of felt like he could be the cologne. And I think for that signing that they gave him, that they really felt that way. I know you and I have disagreed on this in the past. I like Gruden as a coach. I do think he can make a difference, but everything that's going on there is typical Raider business. Matt Mayock, the GM, and Gruden don't seem to be on the same page. If you watch Hard Knocks at all, you see that, Gruden holds a press conference. We're going to back up Antonio Brown no matter what. We've always got his back. He can get here when he gets here. Mayock holds a press conference right afterwards. He'll be punished if he's not here, just like any other player. This is practice. It's important, and if he's not here, he'll be fined. And then, surprise, surprise, there's a fallout between Mayock and Antonio Brown, and now Brown's gone, and he's gone to the Patriots, which is like, thanks, Raiders, because the Patriots are the team that literally everybody should be trying to beat, but nobody seems to get the memo. So it's just same old Raiders to me. And this is their signings in the offseason felt like patchwork to just get them a decent enough season so that they go out of Oakland on a good note and then maybe can rebuild in Vegas or something like that. So I don't see anything coming out of them. I'm not really convinced Derek Carr is an NFL quarterback. Side note on that, every time he was on Hard Knocks, it felt like he knew he was on camera and was acting. It was really weird to see that guy on camera. Nothing to me felt real. It was so like, oh, I'm on camera, let me play with my kids. Like, oh, I don't know. It just, I don't know. The whole Raider team just gives me an feeling. The Broncos, they've got a good defensive line they can lean on, but at the same time, like I said, no offense there. So bottom tier, Broncos and Raiders. I got the Broncos in front of the Raiders.
I think my order's the same. Chiefs number 1. I don't need to talk about that. Ask your grandma if you want to know why the Chiefs are good. I think the Chargers are going to struggle this year. I think they're going to take a big step back, mainly because of injuries. I do not think Melvin Gordon matters. I think it's another offensive system. I think if you put, Eckler will get hurt, but with Justin Jackson in that role, I think the running back's going to produce. Melvin Gordon and Zeke Elliott both started holding out at the same time. And at that time, I bailed 100% on Melvin Gordon. And in all my best ball drafts, I drafted Zeke Elliott. Because the difference is one's good and one's average. Yeah. The Chargers know this. They are not going to give Melvin Gordon Todd Gurley money. He wants Todd Gurley money, but he's not good. He was explosive playing in, the Big Ten in college when there's no defenses. He is the definition of a volume running back in the NFL. He needs volume to produce, but the Chargers gave him volume, and I think the Chargers look at it. If I was a Chargers fan, I would say, hell, do not re-sign him. If he goes to the Niners sign him, I will be furious because he is just a jag to me. He's just another guy. There's nothing special about him. He's a well-rounded running back. He can catch, he can block, he can run, but there's nothing special about him, and he wants special money, and I don't see that. I see it getting ugly.
I agree. Just to play devil's advocate on that, I agree with a lot of what you're saying. I don't think he deserves the money that he thinks he deserves. However, the step down to me is the concern. Is there an average running back on that team? Austin Eckler? And then who? Who is going to be that? That's the part that really concerns me, and that's what I mean when I say it's going to hurt him. Because I just don't see, if they would have gone out and maybe gotten somebody, I just don't know. I don't know who's going to be that guy.
Justin Jackson? JJ?
This is going to have to be Justin Jackson.
I mean, he stepped in last year and he did well when Gordon was hurt. I don't think it could be Eckler. I keep seeing people draft Melvin Gordon in these drafts and then
I stayed away from that.
Eckler and then say, oh, I have it backed up. I don't think that's it. Eckler has his own role, whether Gordon's in the offense or not. I kept taking Justin Jackson in the 13th round because that's going to be the one who fills in. Now, he can't do everything. The good thing about Melvin Gordon is he didn't have to come off the field.
Yeah.
So now it's going to have to be run plays. You have Justin Jackson, pass plays, you have Eckler, and it makes it a little bit more obvious who's doing what.
Right.
But my bigger concern, honestly, is on defense with them. I think there's a lot of defensive injuries. The offensive line as well is always an issue with them. But on defense, they really have 2 pass rushers. And not a lot else.
What about that safety? stud. God, all this popping in my head is Dexter Jackson, and that's an old safety. But Derwin James.
True.
He's a stud. But yeah, I get what you're saying.
And they have a
Middle
good corner
level.
in Casey Hayward. Very top heavy. I feel like they've had, I can't think of anyone else. I feel like they had some injuries too this preseason they have to deal with on defense. I've been hearing a lot of like Chargers, this guy down. No names are popping in mind right now, but I think they're going to take a step back.
Okay.
And I think the Broncos are going to take a step forward. It's very similar to what we're talking about the Seahawks. I can't put the Seahawks over the Rams. I can't put the Broncos over the Chargers, but I think they're going to be very similar.
Okay.
I like Vic Fangio. I think that the defense in the Broncos is going to be top 5.
Yeah,
I like Flacco there. They've been slowly rebuilding the offense. I like Cortland Sutton. Manuel Sanders looks amazing for coming off Achilles injury. I think Philip Lindsay's going to take a step back. I don't think he's going to really be the guy there. But I think the guy they drafted last year is going to take a step forward. So it all works out. Freeman?
They'll have a running game. They always do.
Yeah. So then last is the Raiders. And everyone watches Hard Knocks. Everyone knows the problems with it. It's issues from the top.
Yeah.
There's no way this has happened again. That an all-time great receiver left town and then is going to go put up Hall of Fame numbers again. It's from up top. It was, Brown, if you don't do this, you're going to get suspended. All right, next time I mean it. It's the same thing as when you're working with kids. It's just discipline. And that's what the Patriots do. If he pulls this shit on the Patriots, he's out. And everyone else knows they're not going to touch it after the Patriots. Why people listen. So he needs someone. Do you know, I know we're not going to do a big AB talk, but this has been on my mind all day. So as we're on the Raiders, do you know what I have a ton of respect for now after this whole saga went down? It's Mike Tomlin. Because this guy is crazy. And he kept it under wraps for years. Yeah. He is a great coach as far as dealing, because it didn't really leak until last year. Then they had the whole blow up on week 17, but and it was, you're not playing.
But God, is he good though, AB? He even looks good in warm-ups. Yeah. Like, he's so fast and quick and explosive, but he's batshit crazy.
He's crazy. The great ones usually are crazy. He's the Kanye West of football right now. Yeah. But, he's just, what's starting to concern me with him is how much does he want to play football?
Yeah, I got a sense of that too. It just didn't seem like, and that's how I think he wants, that's what scares me about how bad he wants the guaranteed cash, is that it almost feels like this guy's just looking to get out.
And I don't like, and it's not just because I'm not a fan, I don't like the AB comparisons with Terrell Owens. Because Terrell Owens played with a broken leg in the Super Bowl. Terrell Owens wanted to be on the field. AB now walking out on his team when they could have clinched the playoffs with a win. And I'm doing all this stuff on the Raiders. Now, I do blame the Raiders for a lot of it, but he's got to meet him halfway. He's got to do, the foot thing, I'll give him like that. I think it was kind of funny, but it was also a very serious injury. I don't think that was his fault.
Yeah.
The helmet thing turns out was just a giant play just to do a big sponsorship for some new helmet, it turns out. Mm-hmm. They got to delete his whole Instagram. He's killing himself on that.
Yeah, he really is.
I'm just starting to wonder. He just does not seem like someone who's really that into football. He trains hard. Mm-hmm. But
do you think any part of that could have been like him getting in there and seeing how the Raiders were ran,
just wanting to get out,
and
then why
versus like the Steelers and being like, man, I got to get out of here.
Yeah,
but that's a good point. Why did he take the contract? Yeah, I if I were him, I think I'd want to get out of there too. But at the same time, he's got. I mean, just you could watch the guy. He's definitely a little off, right? I mean, there's something a little different about him.
He's always been weird, but like that was what made him great.
Right.
It's very, that's how athletes are, and same with professional, actors, and they go crazy. Look at all the famous musicians who've killed themselves. Like,
it's hard to focus in on and hone a skill.
That psychoness makes you great. You need that to get you to this level.
But if he's lost any sort of desire to play football, that can be a huge issue. So have to keep an eye on that. If he ends up being even just a shadow of the AB that we've seen in the past, and he's paired up with Tom Brady and Belichick over there, it's a nightmare. It's Randy Moss all over.
It's not his. Oh yeah, I see what you mean. Yeah,
it's.
I think he will, which is the scary part because it's not his team anymore.
No,
it's Tom's team.
It's Tom's team.
For him, it's and the thing is, and the NFL players know it, and the NFL knows it. If the Patriots cut you, you're gone.
Oh, yeah. There's no
You're gone.
resurfacing after that.
But how much does this remind you of Dante Stallworth? I'm not going to get into everything that happened with him, but gets out of the NFL, Patriots pick him up. Mm-hmm. Randy Moss gets cut or traded by the Raiders for nothing, and then they pair him with a great slot in Wes Welker.
Mm-hmm.
You just sub out Stallworth for Josh Gordon, sub out one Raider, ex-Raider with Moss for AB, then you go Welker to Edelman. Pretty sure they were undefeated that year until the Giants got them in the Super Bowl. But
they know how to do it, and it's supposed
I'm not going to be shocked if Gronk comes back now. Just seeing all right, let's go.
Let's go. One more run.
I could see Gronk and AB getting along. I could see him coming back now.
All right, well, that brings us to the next division.
Jeez.
We could go AFC East if you want.
Do we have to cover this one?
Just roll right into that. I mean, well, we both can pencil in the Patriots as number one, and we know why. But maybe who are going to be your 2 through?
Jets, Bills, Dolphins.
Jets, Bills, Dolphins. That's how I have it. Jets, Bills, Dolphins.
But I will say on the Jets.
What about Lev Bell?
I'm not in on him.
Not in on Lev Bell.
I think he is another guy who does not want to play football anymore.
I see
that. He wants the money. He wants to sell rap records or whatever. I don't see it. I think, again, I have so much respect for Mike Tomlin now with dealing with all these people.
Yeah.
It's just
and Big Ben's not easy to deal with.
I know. He had to choose the lead. If Big Ben is the one you decide to stick with, that's a problem.
That's a problem.
I'm not big on Lev. I did not draft him in a single league. When I put him in my queue, I think it was someone the third round. I'm just not in on the guy. I think the Steelers, another example of running backs, which is why I'm a big handcuff for running back. It's all system.
Yeah.
James Conner can't do it. He's too slow. He goes down. I pick him in every league. Jalen Samuel, who's listed as a tight end, and
he does well.
Killed it for me. I think that is all the Steelers' offense. I don't see Lev Bell doing it on the Jets, but I do like a lot of Jets. I think Sam Darnold's going to take a big step forward. I think the defense as a whole is going to take a big step forward.
How about Robbie Anderson? You like Robbie Anderson?
Oh, Robbie Anderson.
If he could stay healthy?
Yeah, he's hurt right now. I've never been a big Robbie guy, but it's hurt me a lot in the past. He has what it takes, especially in non-PPR. My move this year was Chris Herndon. When I waited on tight end because it fell off a cliff, for me it was pairing a tight end geezer with Herndon because he has that 4-game suspension. But I think when he comes back, he's going to kill it. So for me it was, Reed was a good example, but Greg Olsen with Herndon. Or it was
Austin Hooper. There's a lot of old, big tight ends still.
I never went Hooper. I don't really consider Hooper old. I'm going really old. I'm going Delaney Walker, Greg Olsen, Jordan Reed. Ancient. People I don't plan on making it past week 4, but can give me decent production the first 4 weeks. And this ugliness because the first 4 weeks is now preseason.
Yeah.
So I know we can't really give out draft strategy now, but that was my strategy. If I waited on tight end, it was Greg Olsen with Herndon on the bottom of my bench waiting to come in week 4. I like him a lot.
Yeah.
Bills defense is going to be better. I think they have 2 solid corners. I don't really know. I guess Frank Dugood. He's going to do his running back thing. Not really. I'm not that on the Bills. The only reason the Bills are number 3, they would not be number 3 in any other division except for this one. Dolphins are in tank mode. Get out of here. This is just, they should lose their franchise.
He kicked out. Yeah, I obviously I have it the same way. Patriots 1, Jets, Bills, Dolphins. I'm excited to see Sam Darnold and see what kind of steps in which direction he takes.
He's got a big head.
He does have a massive head. Bills, I even am a little excited about Josh over there, and I've always liked the Bills. Their defense seems to be decent, and they get some exciting games from them. And the Dolphins, like I was talking with you earlier, Bill, I was saying they look like one of the only teams that don't want to win this year. So I think that division is fairly easy to handicap there. So I really, as far as the Jets go, I do want to see Lev Bell. I am interested to see how his style of waiting and being patient for the hole to open translates to the Jets, or if at all. If he just ends up getting a lot of TFLs, tackles for losses, and just tackle behind the line because he's kind of dancing back there, or surveying, as you will. But I do like that style, and I kind of hope it translates. I stayed away from him in fantasy too. There's too many question marks with him for me. So I stayed and steered clear of that. Brings us to the AFC North division that we've touched on. A couple teams in this division we're excited about. I have the Browns winning this division. I actually think a little bit different than, I think we differ on this. We touched on it earlier. I think the Browns are going to start off a little slower than maybe expected. I think with this year, for the first time in a long time this year, there's expectations on the Browns. They're young at their core, right? So they've got some veterans that know how to lead, and that's great. But they're a little young at their core, and I like their young players, but I just think with how high the expectations are, they're pretty high, especially in Cleveland. And under the national light, they've got some expectations as well. So I just think there may be a little getting used to that. Maybe the first 3, maybe 4 games, but I think that on the back end of their schedule, it also softens a little bit towards the back end. I see them going on like a 7-8 game win streak there and just kind of taking off from there. And I think that's how they can take that division and come out on top. After the Browns, I've got the Ravens. I see the Ravens as one of those teams that people kind of are overlooking. They tend to continuously find their way into the playoffs. They're going to be doing a lot of running. And I think they know how to make that run system work. They've got a quarterback that I'm not so sure is an NFL quarterback. However, if they run this run system that seemed to work last year with the running and the defense, I think he can do that. I think he can make the passes as needed. You throw in Greg Roman as their coordinator there. Look, Greg Roman got whatever he could and squeezed whatever he could out of Colin Kaepernick. And now he's got a similar, I'm not comparing Kaepernick and Lamar Jackson. They're not the same player. I'm just saying a similar type style. I think Roman will get some productiveness out of Lamar Jackson. And if you can do that, they have some good running backs back there. I love the signing of Mark Ingram. Justice Hill is somebody Justice Hill or Hall? I want to say Justice Hall, like the Justice League. But Justice Hill. He is supposed to be somebody that's getting a lot of fantasy runs. Some people are saying he's going to be the alternative back for Ingram. And now you've got that 1-2 punch there. They've got other weapons too. So I'm kind of excited for the Ravens to see what they can do. I think, letting Joe Flacco go was the right move. So we'll see there. And then I've got the Steelers in third. Bengals last. I think the Bengals could be the worst team in the NFL, so they're easily in last place there. Steelers, I'm interested to see what they can do too. No more Lev Bell, no more Antonio Brown. I do expect a lot from Juju. I liked him coming out of USC, so he's got an opportunity here for a lot of targets, a lot of long balls from Big Ben. I think they will have some really explosive games where they're very exciting, but I just don't see enough. I don't see enough of a balance there. I like James Conner. The Terminator, as I like to call him, James Conner. But I like the Browns and Ravens ahead of him. So I got to go on Browns, Ravens, Steelers, Bengals.
I got a lot of difference. No, just one. Well, I love the Browns. First of all, I was LSU's fan. Jarvis Landry is like one of my favorite players in the league, if not my favorite player in the league. But I'm still going Ravens 1. Goes back to what I talked to at the beginning. The pendulum's swinging. Greg Roman I think Harbaugh's a great coach. I think they got a good defense, and they're going to punch teams in the mouth. They're going to run the ball. They're going to do just enough of Lamar Jackson to make a couple big plays, and I think they are going to stay around. They're going to be annoying to other teams. They actually play in the preseason, so they're ready to go out of the gate. So I got the Ravens winning the division. Browns, it's too good to be true. It's not going to work out. I don't like their coaching staff. I don't like their offensive line. I don't like their defense. And the biggest problem with the Browns is they're not in the right division. You're going against 3 teams that want to run it on you, and they have no run defense.
Yeah.
So what are you going to do against the Browns? You don't want Baker Mayfield to have the ball. Okay, well, just run the ball. And they have no run stoppers. All they have is people who can get to the quarterback, and they have one solid corner out there. So I just feel like teams are going to be able to get their way with the Browns. It's going to be a fun team to watch, great for fantasy. It's a lot of close losses with them. Is Odell Beckham, how many games are he going to play? Another guy who, how badly does Odell actually want to play football, and how much does he want to be a famous athlete? There's 2 different things.
Right.
I am not as high on Odell as I am on Jarvis, because I don't see Odell playing that many games.
I love Jarvis Landry.
So, Njoku knocks the ball down more than he catches it, which would be good, except for he's not a corner. I love Chubb.
Yeah, I like Chubb.
Love Nick Chubb's going to be great. Hunt, I don't see Hunt really doing anything on this team.
Yeah, I don't know where he fits either.
What is his path to this team? If they're doing well, and I'm wrong, and I'm hoping I'm wrong, and they're killing it, they're not going to put Hunt in the game and ruin their momentum.
Not when you have Chubb. It just doesn't seem right.
Right, so if they're not doing well and it's already kind of over, are they going to go with Hunt or try out some new, try to rebuild? Hunt's not part of their future. I don't see. It's almost the only way Hunt can be good is if Chubb gets hurt week 8 and they're winning.
Yeah.
And Hunt goes in.
Yeah. Good little insurance policy there. But you have them in second?
Second.
Okay.
Ravens 1, Browns 2, Steelers 3, Bengals 4. Steelers, I'm not down on. I love Juju. In every league, except for the one I have Juju in, I'm big on Moncrief / Washington because that number 2 is going to be big. Juju's going to get the double bracket, and someone's going to get the Juju production. Big Ben's going to throw the ball. He cares about his stats more than winning, and he's going to chuck that ball around, and the number 2 on that team, we don't know who it is yet. Not often I handcuff receivers, but this is a situation I did it. I like that for fantasy. And then the Bengals are going to be awful. I was a big Joe Mixon fan. I think Joe Mixon, talent-wise, is one of the 5 best running backs in the league. I think it goes Saquon, probably Zeke, Gurley, Kamara, Mixon, as far as just pure talent.
Okay.
But his team is awful. They got no one. They have no offensive line, no one that can spread the field till AJ gets back, no defense. It's just good luck, Joe. It's not going to work out for you. So they're in the running with the Redskins and the Dolphins and Arizona for that first overall pick.
Yep. Okay. Then you can kick us off on the AFC South, the last division here.
I thought this was the best division in the league until Luck retired. So now it is quite interesting. I think this puts Jaguars number 1. I feel like the Jaguars aren't getting enough respect. No one's really high on them. Yeah. I'm not big on Nick Foles, but, he's not Bortles. I'm not drafting any Jags receivers. I'm not big on Dede. I'm not really big on any of them. It's just going to be they're going to do just enough on offense. Fournette is kind of in the same situation as AB, except for Fournette hasn't got that big payday yet. He's got to prove this year he wants to play football.
Yeah, and that's kind of why I like him in some situations, but go ahead.
But is he going to stay healthy? There's a lot of issues with Fournette, and they cannot win without Fournette, so I think he's going to do well as well. That's the only reason I have number 1. That defense is still just disgusting shutdown, so.
Yeah.
Number 2, I'm going the same theme I've gone this whole time. It's going to be I'm doing dive left, try to stop me. I'm going Titans. I was huge on Derrick Henry, and I find it interesting. Everyone argues with me, oh no, Derrick Henry, they're not in on him, but I was not able to get him in a single draft. So and I was starting in the 3rd round. Everyone was going Derrick Henry, way earlier than I was expecting. The suspension to, I'm blanking on the name, right tackle it's going to hurt.
Oh.
But I mean, when he gets back, that team's going to have one of the better offensive lines. They're going to pound it with Derrick Henry. Marcus Mariota, I'm not sure that Marcus Mariota is going to
Taylor Lewan,
yes. He likes to fight everyone. I'm not sure Marcus Mariota is going to finish as the starter. I am not
been saying for years he's not a
down
quarterback.
on. I think Tannehill is a very serviceable NFL quarterback. I think Tannehill is going to take that spot. They have a lot of decent weapons. Corey Davis is a decent weapon. Corey Davis is an awesome weapon. If he ever had a quarterback, Corey Davis would be killing it right now.
Mm-hmm.
But I going Titans number 2. I think their defense can do enough to. They're not going to be on the field very often because it's going to be ground and pound the entire time. And I like Vrabel. Texans I got is number 3. Again, they're kind of like the Falcons to me. They're so top heavy.
Yeah.
They're starting to piece together that offensive line, but there's still a lot of holes in it. They have 2 rookies, I think, starting at guard for them. Carlos Hyde is not a Band-Aid. I cannot believe I would have bet good money that Adrian Peterson was on the Texans. I thought for sure, I'm pretty sure he's from Houston. Once I heard that about Lamar Miller going down, I was like, all right, here comes Adrian. Never happened. Duke Johnson is not an every down running back. So Will Fuller is awesome when he's healthy, but can he stay healthy? On defense, the Seahawks robbed them. I still don't know what happened there. They have no idea what trade value is worth. They got rid of so many draft picks for Duke Johnson. I think it was for a 3rd, and it was crazy what they were doing this year. So I'm not down on the Texans. I just think it's a good division. I like the Titans to beat them out. And then the Colts, for me, the Colts were going to represent the AFC in the Super Bowl. The Patriots got AB. The Colts lost Luck, and funny how things change around that way.
Yeah.
So I have them as 4th now. I'm not as down on them on fantasy as some people are. I was never big on Mac, by the way. I was never a big Mac guy. They still have a good offensive line. I think Jacoby Brissett's going to be better than what people saw. Don't forget, last time you saw him, he was traded the day before the league started. And he still was acceptable. But, I mean, this was someone who was very successful in college. And I didn't go TY anywhere because I feel like people were drafting him way too early still. But I still feel like offensively they can do enough. They got a good line. Defense, they have some gaps. But they're going to be 4th on that team. But respectable. I like their coaching staff. And Colts, though, to go against it, play devil's advocate to myself. They came into this offseason with the most cap room of any team, and they just sat on it.
Niners were topping that too.
And how much of that went into Andrew Luck's decision, I don't know. But they didn't make any moves. They were not aggressive. They said, we have Andrew Luck, that's going to be enough. If they would have went out and just stacked that team, gone, even though I was just talked down on him, but gone Lev Bell, gone ODB, made some moves and just stacked that team to where they were the clear favorites. Does Luck still I guess he's still over it. I felt like they were very lazy in the offseason. They just kind of settled. They just gave Brissett a bunch of money just because they had to get rid of money. Like they were going to just lose it to the ABA. So, yeah, they're in the 4th seat. Good job, guys. You're back.
Yeah, so we have it pretty close. I've got just a little switch there, but yeah, I've got the Jaguars number 1. I think they take a step forward. I think some people are down on that defense, saying like they were exploited last year, and now teams know how to beat that defense. I don't. Look, it's a passing league. It's an offensive scoring league. So there's going to be points put up. I like the Jaguars' core defense. I think they've got some studs that they can rally around, and I love
But the way to beat that defense is to throw the ball to your running back.
Yeah.
Like, okay, are you going to beat them by throwing the ball to your running back?
Exactly. And
tight ends, I get, like, that's fine.
And I just, for me too, the addition of Nick Foles, I don't know how much it'll do, but very right on board with you. I agree. It's got to be a step up from Bortles. I don't think Bortles is an NFL quarterback. So Yeah, so that looks great. And then I got the Texans coming in second. And I like Deshaun Watson, and that's mainly what it comes down to for me. I like Deshaun Watson that much better than, Titans quarterback.
Mariota.
Yes, slash Tannehill. I don't even think Mariota's an NFL quarterback. Maybe a backup somewhere. So he's not very good. I've seen enough for sure to have a view on that as well, or the jury is in for me on that guy. So I know that the team is not all quarterback, but I think when those two teams to me are kind of neck and neck almost fighting for second in that division, and I just think that Deshaun Watson and DeAndre Hopkins kind of are what helps to edge them out. I do like certain aspects of the Titans. I've got them coming in third. I think they've got a defense that's pretty solid. I think that I love Vrabel. I love Mike Vrabel. I think he's a good coach. I think he knows how to identify his talents and then play to his strengths. I like Derrick Henry this year as well. I've always felt like for Derrick Henry, it's been a usage issue. Does the guy actually get the ball as much as he should? And this year, I think they're going to tout him a lot. I think he's going to toe the rock. He's going to get the ball a lot. And so I think he can do good things. I was able to snag him in a fantasy league, and I did have to take him kind of high. So hopefully that pans out. And then the Colts, I think just losing Andrew Luck is huge. Anytime you lose a guy that was, runner-up for the MVP last year, it's a big deal. Can Jacoby Brissett do it? From what I've seen from Jacoby, I don't think so. But we'll see. The guy hasn't had a ton of time, so you got to give him a little bit of time here to see what he can actually do. Ty is always going to be a good wide receiver, and they have some weapons there. But I just think the last minute loss like that is just it's tough. That's tough to overcome, and just the fans booing. There's just a dark cloud over that franchise right now. So we'll see if they can kind of get through that and play through that. But I still have them rounding out and getting last in that division. So that does it for all the divisions. We gave you the division winners. We should probably pick a wild card from each one and then do our Super Bowl picks. So who you got coming out as a wild card from the NFC?
Oh, man. I was just saying how tough this one was. I am going Seahawks and Panthers.
All right, there it is.
Am I doing Super Bowl now, or are you going first?
Oh, no, I'll give my NFC wild cards. For my NFC wild cards, I've got the Seahawks as well and the Cowboys. So I've actually got two coming out of that division if the Eagles take it. Seahawks and Cowboys. All right, AFC wild card contenders.
AFC wild card. I am going with... Might be optimism. I'm going with the Browns.
Okay.
Let's go Browns, and I'm going with the Titans.
All right. Okay, that's interesting because I will be going with the Ravens and the Chargers. I was going to go with Ravens, Texans, but I'll go Ravens, Chargers. Ravens, Chargers.
Have two coming out of the North.
Yes, we do. Yes, we do. All right, so that leads us to our Super Bowl predictions, Bill. Kick it off. Who do you got in the grand finale?
It is going to be a rematch again.
Uh-oh.
No, that. I'm thinking, for me, this whole Patriots thing just reminds me of the Randy Moss year. What year was that? I was like,
2004?
4 or 5?
Yeah, something like that.
So they're going to go up against a different NFC East team. I am going Cowboys over Patriots.
Cowboys and the Patriots. All right, I like it. That would be a cool. I'm down with that Super Bowl. I am going to go a little bit more boring. I'm going to go Chiefs Saints. I know that's probably a lot of teams or a lot of people's predictions, but I like the Saints getting back there, and I think the Chiefs probably run into the Patriots in the AFC Championship, and this time they get over. So that's who I have going there, and that does it for our predictions. I will go ahead and stop the podcast here, and then later on be posting my pick'ems, fantasy week 1 stardoms, and my bets for the week. But we're running low on battery here, so we got to actually power down for a minute. Goodbye for now, you beautiful, beautiful listeners.